Welcome to this Saturday's Travel and History Tip. Today, we will be going to downtown Portland. We have a close friend whose husband actually had to go down to the federal courthouse in Portland this past week, and he snapped a few pictures for us to see. He was able to speak with one of the federal agents and actually pray with him and ask the agent what he could do for him. And he said, well, the only thing that I ask you to do is to pray. That's the only thing that can make a difference. One of the things that a friend of ours husband found interesting was he saw in the park where all the people are hanging out, they weren't really doing much at that point because it was early in the morning. There was one woman and she was picking up all the trash. And he thought, well, that is nice that she's picking up the trash. And the next thing he knew, she was hurling the whole bag of trash over the fence into the United States courthouse lawn. So that wasn't so nice what she was doing. Portland is actually a beautiful city with a lot of history, and it's perched along the Willamette River. It's definitely a city worth going to visit. One of the greatest places to go to is the Oregon Historical Society. It's located at 1200 Southwest Park Avenue, just directly south of where the federal courthouse is. It's being under siege for over 2 months. And the museum is actually open again, which is great to hear. The Oregon Historical Society was founded in 1898. I want you to understand that we need to protect and preserve our history. The OHS Museum and Research Library is located in the heart of Portland's Cultural District. 3 floors of exhibits include Oregon, My Oregon, the Brooks Julian Galleries, and the History Hub. The galleries include traveling exhibits, and the day we visited High Hopes, the journey of John F. Kennedy was on display. But I was driven to the 3rd floor's historical Oregon State exhibits. The quality of the artifacts, paintings, historical documents, and vintage photos is exceptional and compelling. The item I was most looking forward to seeing was a ceremonial tomahawk pipe probably used to murder trailblazer and missionary Dr. Marcus Whitman. Cayuse Indian Chief Tomahawks slashed Whitman to death to a point he was unrecognizable. But one of the most exceptional things about the museum is this mural. Richard Haas, who did the mural, is an artist about architecture. He makes people stop and think about architecture and realize that buildings are not just a backdrop. They're also an active presence in our lives, and this is absolutely amazing, as you can see. It's an 8-story high trompe-l'oeil mural. It was done in 1989 through 1990, and it depicts Lewis and Clark's scene with Sacagawea and her baby pomp, Jean-Baptiste. The Historical Society commissioned the artwork in 1989 for $225,000. Inside the museum, we found the pipe tomahawk, purported to be the weapon used to kill missionary Marcus Whitman in the incident at Wailatpu Mission. The ceremonial tomahawk remains a powerful and controversial symbol of an event that changed the face of Oregon forever. Narcissa Whitman's life was marked by evangelical zeal and disappointment. In 1836, a 28-year-old bride, she traveled overland with her husband to open a mission for the Cayuse Indians at Wailatpu on the Walla Walla River. Her only child, born the next year in the Oregon country, drowned in the river at the age of 2. She took more than a dozen orphan children into her home, many of them abandoned by overland pioneers. She and her husband won few converts and died in an Indian attack in November 1847. In spite of adversity, Whitman kept her faith. Her favorite hymn, sung at her wedding, sustained her. In the deserts let me labor, on the mountains let me tell, how he died, the blessed Savior, to redeem a world from hell. And they have a lock of Narcissa's hair on display. We have been to their Whitman mission there in Walla Walla, and I recommend everyone go there. There isn't a lot there left, but just to stand at the property and walk around where this tragic event happened. And Narcissa's life is amazing, and I recommend to definitely research Narcissa Whitman. Another incredible special exhibit was My Journey with Lewis and Clark, and it was watercolors by Helen Brown, and this is one of them. They had traveled all the way from Illinois by waterway for the most part to reach the Pacific Ocean on their conquest given to them by President Thomas Jefferson. Ocean in view, oh the joy. This quote was an entry in the Journal of the Lewis and Clark Expedition, November 7, 1805. Clark believed that the Corps of Discovery had sighted the Pacific. In fact, the body of water seen was the estuary of the Columbia River, some 25 miles from the coast. I just love Lewis and Clark and all the history related around their expedition, and we have been to many, many Lewis and Clark sites across the nation. As we left the Historical Society, we walked a few blocks on this hilly town downward towards the Willamette River to the world's smallest dedicated park. Mill Inns was officially dedicated as a city park on St. Patrick's Day in 1976, but it had been cultivated since 1948 by a columnist at the Oregon Journal. Mill Inns Park, sometimes mistakenly called Mills Inn Park, is a tiny urban park located in the median strip of Southwest Nadeau Parkway, approaching the Esplanade along the Willamette River near Southwest Taylor Street in downtown Portland. From his office on the second floor of the Oregon Journal building, journalist Dick Fagan periodically gazed down on the busy Front Avenue thoroughfare. It was his keen imagination that turned a utility pole hole in the avenue's median strip at Taylor Street into Mill Inns Park. The Guinness Book of World Records listed as the world's smallest park. It is 24 inches in diameter and contains 452.16 square inches of land. In his Mill Inns column in the Oregon Journal, Fagan described a variety of events occurring in the park. Weddings and other celebrations have taken place at Mill Inns. People decorated for different occasions. The day that we visited, it was just sort of there. It was not too well decorated or kept. Portland also has the country's largest forested municipal park, Forest Park, located just northwest of downtown. In 1803, William Clark paddled far enough up the Willamette River to see Forest Park's present location. He described this forest as having Douglas fir as its predominant tree, with trunks ranging from 5 to 8 feet in diameter. From almost the earliest time of subsequent European settlement along the confluence of the Columbia and Willamette Rivers, the vision of a great natural park along the eastern slope of Portland's northwest hills, which Native Americans called the Tualatin Mountains, was pursued over the years by various civic leaders. And we drove through this park. We weren't able to spend a lot of time, as when we did pull off to do a specific hike, we found that the trails were closed. So we just drove through and went to our next stop, Franz Bakery. East of downtown Portland, there is a giant spinning bread loaf marking the spot of Franz Bakery. We took the grand tour of Franz Bakery hamburger bun line. Meeting under the blue awning, Mary, the tour coordinator, weaved our group around pallets loaded with huge bags of ingredients. Beside the flour storage tanks and underneath thousands of hamburger buns riding along the overhead cooling rack, also known as the Bun Highway. We watched the enormous batter mixer kneading a humongous batch of dough and then dumping it into a long, deep vat. Next, we moved inside the warm room where the 1,500 pounds of dough rise before being molded, proofed, baked, and packaged. Each batch makes about 5,000 buns, and like many plants, they do not allow pictures. Over 1 million buns are made at that location daily, following the strict recipes provided by Arby's, Burger King, Jack in the Box, Wendy's, Sonic, Chick-fil-A, and other restaurants and retailers. The parent company, U.S. Bakery, owns bakeries throughout the Pacific Northwest and across the country. After seeing every aspect of bread making, packaging process, and the transfer of the product to the 18-wheeler trailers, we were given a loaf of fresh organic bread. Franz labeled buns, English muffins, organic bread, and hot dog buns are also made at the highly automated Portland Bakery. You have to email to get a tour, and they do have a strict dress code. And I'm not sure they're doing tours right now. I know that normally they do not do them in the summer. Hopefully that will be opened up soon. And if you're enjoying these travel tips, I encourage you to purchase my Unclassic Road Trip books. Franz Bakery and Mill Inns Park are part of the entries in the Western Edition. The dedication of the Western Edition reads, "This book is dedicated to those stalwart individuals who ventured to the western United States during and prior to the Great Migration. The hardships of the trails claimed the lives of 10% of those who set off on the action-packed journey of endurance. I especially want to honor Nancy Kelsey, Narcissa Prentice Whitman, Eliza Hart Spalding, Marie Dorian, Sacagawea, and Eliza Jane Meeker. These resilient women are to be admired for their strength and perseverance in conquering the West with their husbands, both settling in what became the Oregon Territory, now the state of Washington. Dr. Marcus Whitman and Ezra Meeker were part of America's manifest destiny. Both fur trappers, Pierre Dorian and Toussaint Charbonneau, Sacagawea's husband, served as interpreters for major Western expedition." And here's a photograph of me standing beside Narcissa Prentice Whitman's grave at the Whitman Mission National Historic Site outside of Walla Walla, Washington. American history. Learn it. Love it. Appreciate it. Thank you.